Welcome to Higher Learning. I am your host, Oz Rashid. This is more than just a podcast. It's a front row seat to how elite leaders build the most iconic of teams. The kind of leaders who spot potential that others overlook, who build cultures people don't want to leave, who set the bar, then raise it. Work and how we work is evolving at a rapid pace like no time in history. Our guests will give you insights on how to stay out in front when it comes to all things talent, leadership, management, artificial intelligence, and developing the skills that actually matter. Whether you're a founder, hiring manager, or just obsessed with building teams the right way, this is your spot. If it's your first time here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, drop a rating, tell a friend who gets it. To our longtime listeners, we appreciate you. Thanks for the continued support. Now, let's get into it. Today's guest is a very special guest. We're joined by Lauren Easterday, the founder and principal at EastLight LLC. Lauren is a strategist, operator, and board member who moves seamlessly between enterprise, startup, and advisory roles, and now runs her own firm. Her journey covers high-stakes stops like large global players like Wipro and health tech startups like Clearway and HealthPartners, as she's built a great career in healthcare and operations. At the same time, she's taken the bold step of founding her own firm, EastLight, a consultancy that takes on growth, transformation, complexity in the healthcare and digital health space. Today's episode, we're going to dig into what EastLight does, how she got into healthcare, what's working and what's broken in the trillion-dollar healthcare industry, and her perspective on what works in being a great board member. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Oz. How are you?
I'm doing great. I hope I did okay with that intro.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
So you are based in the great city of Chicago.
Chicago.
One of my favorite cities. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. How long have you been in Chicago?
I have been in Chicago since 2018. I spent quite some time in Minneapolis prior to that, but it's a bit of a homecoming. I'm from Rockford, Illinois originally, so just a little bit outside of here.
Okay, before we get into it, because we got a lot of work stuff to talk about, talent stuff to talk about, just tell me your favorite thing about living in the city.
You know, I'm going to say I love that I'm close to my family. So my cousins are right up the street, but I'll say for anyone visiting, the food scene is pretty second to none.
That was the answer I was hoping you were going to give. I tell people all the time that it's my favorite food city. And why I say that is I spent a lot of time in New York. I live in Miami. I've been to Los Angeles quite a bit. To me, per capita, you're not going to find more good restaurants than you find in Chicago. In New York, which is everybody's like most common answer, I find that because of the location of so much foot traffic everywhere that you don't really got to stand out from a food and hospitality perspective to make money. But in Chicago, like if you're not really cooking, if you're not really creating a great environment experience, you got no chance to survive as a restaurant. And so whether it's on the west side or the east side, the north side, wherever it is, Wrigleyville, I love the food in Chicago. And I got to say, I probably gain 5 pounds every time I go out there. And whether it's eating something standard like a Portillo's hot dog or a hot beef or a deep dish pizza, I love the food there. So I'm so glad you answered that. All right. Let's get into it. You've worked at large enterprise companies like Wipro, and you've worked at startups like Clearway before starting your own firm, EastLight. I want to know first off about EastLight. Tell us what you did there, and then tell us about that moment, that journey to start your own firm.
Yeah, thank you, Oz. And it certainly was a journey, I'll say. At EastLight, we're really focused on inflection points with companies. And it's something that I saw so many times from large, mid-size, early stage. You get to a point where you've got this great idea, or you've come to a point of transformation, or you see it's time to pivot, or there's a new market, and you've got this incredible vision. But bringing that vision to strategy and actually being able to execute on it is a whole nother story. And oftentimes you need some additional help to really get there and be able to do it right. And that's really where I saw a unique opportunity to be able to come in at those inflection points and be able to help companies come from that early idea stage to launching something completely new, or changing their direction and seamlessly creating value for their current customers as they continue to grow.
I love that. So you got a really long and established career in what I would call the biosciences and healthcare space. Was that always kind of the plan? Did you always want to be in healthcare? What drew you to the industry, and when did you get into it in the first place?
Yeah, so I'll say I had a few different travels through some different businesses and industries, but when I landed in healthcare, I'll say I kind of knew, and I was very fortunate to be one of the early team members at a company called Redbrick Health, which was very early in the digital health and preventative care digital health industry. And I joined this just the most incredible group of smart, caring people who asked the right questions and were fiercely committed to creating a better life for people through the products and experiences. And our mission was simple: help people be healthy. And that just stood with me from the moment I stepped foot in that organization. I knew that's where I wanted to stay. And that's been my vision as I moved through my career, and having that mission statement to help people live healthier, longer lives, get the care when they need it, and be there to do the great work that they want to do and be there for their families.
I love that. You have a kind of this cross section of both operations and technology. Where do you feel like you lean? What's your sweet spot? Has it evolved over your career?
Yeah, I think it very much has. And I'll say, Oz, I think it's very situational in a lot of cases because I see um, technology as being the enabler of people. I think technology is a wonderful thing when we can harness it and leverage it in the right ways to create value, scale, and really allow, when I think about care, a person to person industry to be more personal because we're taking that administrative burden off with the technology. So I very much see the two as being hand in hand, and you can't do one well without the other. And it's important to be thoughtful, no matter how you're applying technology and how you're thinking about your business.
Yeah, I really love what you said there about technology being an enabler of people. And, it's interesting. We're in this age of AI, and there's a lot of conversation about it right now. And then, quite frankly, there's a lot of fear mongering, and there's a lot of, talks of like big extreme things. And my belief from being pretty up close with it is that, what we're hearing is it's not what it sounds like right now. Maybe it will be over time, but we're certainly not there right now. And I saw this chart the other day. It was really amazing. It was amount of Americans that feared artificial intelligence or the concept of artificial intelligence. My number was like 75 to 80%, something pretty crazy. And then in China, it was completely the opposite. It was looked at as like this enabler of people, this great door opener, an opportunity giver, right? At 85 to 90% clip in China. And so I look at that and like, not to get overly politicized about it, but it's like, the things that we hear, the things that we see, the information that we take in, and we're just bombarded by so much, it really starts to impact our psyche on these things. And you got to imagine that if you have the attitude of like, of course, there's downsides to everything, including technology, including powerful technology like artificial intelligence. But if we go into it with this like negative mindset, doomer mindset, this attitude of that, it's more bad than good. God, we're behind the eight ball, and we know how competitive it is in this space and how much it means to our country from a national security perspective, a GDP perspective, and all these perspectives. So anybody listening to this right now, I would say take Lauren's advice and embrace technology and look at it as what it can do to empower us. And of course, think about the downside. But I love the way you frame that. So I wanted to bring that up. Let's speaking of controversial topics, let's talk healthcare. Right in this country, it's $1 trillion plus business, and for better or for worse, it's one of the most hot topic issues that we have in America. What do you think is working in the space right now? Because you've been so up close with it, particularly in the biosciences space. And then what is something that if you could change, you'd change it and you think would have a big impact positively?
Yeah. And, I'm glad you brought this up, Oz, because I think it's one of those tough questions that all of us in the industry are asking, while there is certainly a huge echo chamber around it across the board. But for me, I think, I'll say I think what's going really well is the people. I think that the caregivers, the clinicians, the doctors and nurses are in the industry providing care and doing that for the reasons that they want to serve people and create value and create health and longevity where where there's opportunities to intervene and to help. And I think a lot of the people in the industry as well are here for a certain reason to create healthier lives and access for people. But unfortunately, I'll say it's a mired industry with legacy systems built on top of legacy systems and navigation that does not seamlessly fit together in the way that we intend it to, and constantly new components built on top without really getting under the covers to reintegrate and rebuild that infrastructure that's so broken in the system. And I think it causes so many barriers in that way. And so where I'm really excited about technology and what that means for us, I think there's two sides to it that I'm specifically really excited about. One is the ability to enhance and create much faster cycles for the research we're doing on diseases that we don't know as much about as we wish we did, on finding new drugs and new opportunities for therapy. I think we're going to see some incredible breakthroughs coming in the next few years and just accelerating over the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm so excited about the way we can apply the technology to create those much faster cycles in such a critical area. And then I think on the care side as well, it's really being able to create a continuity across care continuum and really arming clinicians to be able to have the wherewithal to have those conversations, to sit down and have that person to person care and take that administrative burden off so that those records and that important information can be done offline, creating more of a workflow where they can see more people and really do what they love, which is caring for patients.
Yeah, I really love that. I'll double down on a couple of things you said. So first of all, from a legacy technology perspective, bureaucracy perspective, red tape perspective, I mean, there's quite literally life-threatening consequences tied to that inefficiency, that inability to move faster and make better decisions quicker, and cut out so many of the middlemen and red tape that we see in our traditional kind of healthcare system. And I think it's something that I'm really excited about with the possibilities of artificial intelligence and what's to come. And I think that there's a really big opportunity, to your point, not just in terms of fixing insurance and fixing the red tape, but also helping to identify, new ways to cure diseases that, have been chronic for years upon years, or just change patient care for the better. There's just so much opportunity there. And I'm so excited about that possibility. And then to your other point, yes, like our company, MSH, we do a lot of recruitment. About 30 to 40% of our recruitment is in the healthcare space. And we're working with all types of advanced practice clinicians and nurses and physicians. And the people we work with are such incredible service-based people, such talented people that could probably work across any industry and have so much success, but have decided to dedicate their career to helping others and caring for others in their biggest times of need. And so I just double down on the fact that I think the people in the industry, my major respect for their service and all of the different things that they do. And they are certainly not the problem. The vast majority of people I've met in that space are incredibly talented and some of the most high character people. And so I just think that ultimately there's some opportunities we have in terms of allowing those people to do what they do best, whether it be through technology, whether it be through process, whether it be through, making things more optimal. I just think there's such an opportunity there. So I'm so excited to be talking to you. I do want to talk a little bit about your experience, because I always love to ask this question. I meet a lot of people who've been in large enterprise environments, and then of course they've been in startups. And a lot of times I see them go back to one or the other because they feel like a fish out of water. And in fact, I tell people all the time, it's much easier to change function to function or even industry to industry than it is to change, right, from a very large corporate environment, right, to a smaller, scrappier startup environment. It just takes a completely different skill set. And so I'm interested to know, you've been able to kind of, definitely jump in between those. What has been your experience, and where do you prefer? Where do you like to spend your time now?
Yeah, and I love this one, and I'm gonna say that I'm probably gonna turn it on its head a little, because my answer is maybe a little bit unexpected when I say I really love both, and I think that it's really about the context, and it's about the organization, it's about the process or service that they're offering, and it's about the people. And I think that context that, you know, startups are incredible. The energy, the excitement about building something new, bringing a new product to market, that's like nothing else that you'll experience. Building something from the ground up, and having your hands in so many different areas of the business and really making an impact in that way. But at the same time, I think there is so much opportunity within larger enterprise organizations that have funding if they are looking to invest in innovation, invest in listening to their customers, hearing where they could create new business, new products, new value, and want to put that in and infuse that, whether it be into creating forward-looking business segments or innovation labs. There's so much to be done there, and I think there's a lot more resource in a lot of cases to do that even more quickly, and to fail fast and try something new and be creative in that space than you would maybe have in an earlier stage startup with the funding and opportunities in that space. So I think it's really very situational, looking at the organization, their goals, where they're looking to go, and do you have the right team, or can you build the right team to get you there?
Love it. I love the genuine and authentic answer, but I got to be honest, a very political answer. I mean, we're trying to drive podcast numbers here, Lauren. You got to say you hate something and you love something. We can't be so down the middle. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate that. I totally get it. I thought you had a lot of really good points there in context. I appreciate you sharing it.
Finding the right talent for your team doesn't have to be a struggle. Meet Aon Hire, the world's first hiring experience management platform designed to transform the way you hire. Powered by AI, Aon Hire takes the hassle out of every step in the process. From smart resume analysis to customized interview questions, it saves you time, money, and effort. Plus, with real-time insights from every interview, you can quickly identify top candidates, reduce turnover, and stay on budget. And forget about note-taking. Aon Hire takes care of that for you. Ready to revolutionize your hiring process? Visit aonhire.com and get started today.
I want to talk about something else. You are on a lot of boards, and actually the executives, when I talk to them, number one thing I can do for them, and I try my best to kind of facilitate these, is find them great board opportunities, because what's better? You show up once a quarter a lot of the time. Like, you come in, you diagnose solutions, you diagnose problems, you give your solutions, right? You're respected. Many of the times they're paid and have great perks. Board opportunities are amazing. You have had one with Attest Biosciences, Village Tree Health, Women Business Leaders of the U.S. Healthcare Industry Foundation, Private Directors. I don't even know if I'm forgetting any here. Needless to say, you've been invited to be on a lot of boards, and you're obviously very effective at what you do. I'd be interested to hear from your perspective. How does this satisfy you? What does this do for you? What does it fulfill for you? And then what makes a good board member in your opinion?
Well, thank you, Oz. That's very kind. And I'll say, having the opportunity to serve on a board is such an incredible thing. And for me, it's an opportunity to be able to help a team grow and realize their vision for the future in a really unique way that isn't the way that you would as a member of the executive leadership team, or as a member of the founding team for early stage organizations. It's really turning that on its head in terms of being able to look in and bring your experience to shine a light in the corners of where, they may not be looking as they're moving forward, especially if they're moving forward fast, to be able to ask thoughtful questions and really listen. I think that's such an important thing in board work is really having your ears open more than you're talking, and really understanding the business and the needs and the vision and what's worked and what hasn't and why, so that you can bring thoughtful questions and insights, or just share an experience that you've had that may be relevant in that moment to help to guide that CEO and executive team through some of those really critical junctures in their business.
That's some great advice. I know there's a lot of people who are either on boards or interested in joining boards. I think you had some really great contextual evidence there for people that can take and be practical with and apply as they pursue those positions or in those positions. There's no wonder that you're as successful on the boards as you do, and being such a good and engaged listener. So thank you for sharing that. All right. We got to pay the bills here. These neon lights don't pay for themselves. We got to talk talent. That's what we do here on the Old Higher Learning Podcast. So I'm really excited. I know you worked in these large organizations. You've built great teams. You've got your own firm now. Let's start here. What's your core hiring philosophy when it comes to bringing in talent to work with you or work with your team?
Yeah. So I'll keep this short, and I'll say it's really knowing what your organization needs at that point in time, and being open to the fact that the person or the profile that you think might be the right fit at that moment, it could be something completely different, and that's okay. And so go through the process, explore, and have some real open and honest conversations.
Good advice. I love that. All right. What about a memorable interview experience? Do you have any interviews? Maybe you were interviewing yourself or you were interviewing somebody. Any that come to mind? You don't have to name names. But
Yes.
the more
Great. So I'll share one that sticks in my mind. And this was one where I was interviewing. It was an 8-hour full day interview. I did get a break for lunch.
getting tired thinking about that.
I met every member of the executive team, every stakeholder, and had the opportunity to have some really meaningful conversations throughout the course of the day. And yes, it was absolutely long. And I think so often it's interesting to me, because I think we're always talking about, are we over interviewing? Are we under interviewing? Are we going through too much process and time in terms of some of these roles? But I do think it's so role specific. And for that one, I was going to be working across so many different sides of the organization. It was important for me as the candidate to have the opportunity to come in, meet all of the key players, ask my questions, have dialogue, see where the common threads were. So I think it was as valuable for me as it was for them to all have the opportunity to have those in-person discussions while I was on site that day.
Okay. I mean, Lauren, I got to tell you, I love that. I'm glad you got everything you need out of the interview. But there's people listening to this being like, oh, I told you, 8-hour interviews can work. It's a great candidate experience. She got all the information she needed. You wouldn't recommend it as a rule, right?
Not as a rule. That was very much an exception for that role.
I love that. I love that. What is a favorite question that you ask prospective hires?
For me, I wouldn't say that I have one specific question that's a go back to, but going back to my thought around context, I think it's so important. I certainly will ask for, much more executional roles. I'm going to ask some questions about the specific work to really tease out and understand the experience and aptitude in the space. And certainly for leaders, I'm going to want to talk about their leadership experience, how they think about collaborating with their peers, how they think about leading their team, and how they think about being a leader in the organization of other teams, of other peer leaders, and what does that look like for them. So I'm going to tailor that. But what I do think is critically important in any interview is to be able to create trust and have a really open dialogue where you're sharing open and honestly about what you're looking for and what you need in the organization at that point, and being able to take time to really hear what they're looking for and what questions they have, and answer those thoughtfully, so that both sides have a clear view of what's next.
What do you, when you miss on somebody, right? Because we all have, right? Do you look back maybe early in your career, maybe themes or things that you had to learn and kind of adapt to over time? What were some maybe common things that when you missed on somebody were areas that you went back and corrected over time?
Yeah, and that one is definitely a long source of reflection for me, and I think all of us as leaders, that's hard and even harder on the other side of it. And I would say it really being able to go beyond a really great rapport and a polished interview and to be able to dig in and understand. So if it's an executional role, how do you execute? What are the trends you're seeing? How do you see the work being different than it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago? What changes do you want to make? And really going into some of that detail to have a good understanding not only of the person's way of working and aptitude in this space, but where they're really looking to go and take the organization in the work they're doing, because that's going to be such a critical part as well.
So, other way, if I ask you about the best hire you've ever made, does anybody come to mind?
You
You're
know,
going to name names. We want everybody thinking they're the best hire you've ever made. But if you want to just describe the situation and when you knew.
I am deeply fortunate to have more than one face come into my mind through various chapters of my career. But what I'll say the common thread is not only that um, that person came in with a really strong background and ready to hit the ground, but wanting to learn from everyone in the organization and to continue to take both themselves and the team around them to the next level. And I think that's true of individual contributors, leaders, across the organization. If you have that, you're going to be absolutely indispensable.
Well, last question on the hiring side. So, how do you create a candidate experience that's memorable? When let's say that you're sitting across from the person that you know is going to be a great fit, what do you try to do to make sure that they understand what they're walking to, but also that they have a memorable experience, so that when it comes time for an offer, they're signing on the dotted line? Anything you do in particular there?
Yeah, so I really take the approach of one, just being very open and transparent. I'm going to share the things I love about the organization, the things I'm excited about, and I'm also going to share the things that we're struggling with and where we need to lean in a little bit more, learn more. We need some help, potentially from that person coming in to join us, if they so choose. And on the other side, I think it's important that there's a full view. So having the visibility to talk to the right few other people that would put that full picture together, because I think it's important as a candidate to be able to have that open conversation, but then to have that reinforced and really say, is everyone rowing in the same direction? Are there different viewpoints? Are there other things in place so that they can really get that full picture to make an informed decision for themselves as well?
Yeah, you do yourself a real disservice if you're misleading or you paint a rose-colored picture that's not accurate. You want to give people a full understanding of good and bad what they're walking into, and make sure that that's something that they're comfortable with and they want to be a part of. So I think that's really, really sound on your part. Okay, let's take it in a little bit of a different direction. So we're contractually obligated to have an artificial intelligence question in every podcast. So I just wanted to ask you, in your day-to-day life personally, is there any like usage of AI that you really have picked up on that you love, or is there any maybe AI kind of product that you're using? Anything that you would say or recommend for our listeners?
I do. I use it in my daily life, and I'll say one of the tips I heard early on that I've really come to live by is the idea of AI as the strategic thought partner, the researcher, being able to create those personas that add value upstream before you get down to, it's great to take notes and to capture, our meetings and things like that, but there's so much more to it. And what I would say for listeners, and this has been something that I've reflected on myself quite a bit, but AI is constantly evolving and shifting and building on itself quite literally. And so being able to take just a little bit of time, and I don't know if that's a thought block on your calendar on a Friday afternoon, or taking some reflection time to be creative and think about how you could make whether it's something that's a challenge for you, something that's a challenge for your organization, for your clients, for patients, how you could make it better. And is there a way you could apply AI that you wouldn't have thought about? And then go try it out, go research it, go talk to the people doing that, because I think there's so many companies building such interesting products. And so thinking about, I wonder if there's someone out there who does that. There probably is. And if there isn't, maybe it'll be you.
Excellent. I love that. What about books? You got any good books you'd recommend for our listeners?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go in and recommend a book that I am actually partway through. So I'm currently reading, but it's so good. I would like to recommend it, which is A Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And I think it's probably a little less traditional potentially here for the business group.
We love non-traditional. Keep going. Tell us what it's about.
So it's very focused, and you could come at it from an artist lens or, musician, really thinking about how you bring creativity from the universe into the work you're doing, and how do you really define creativity in your daily life and make space for it. And I think it's so topical right now, not only for people building companies and thinking about the future of AI, but just being able to take space in a very crowded and busy world that we live in today, to clear some time, clear your minds, and reflect on opportunities that you can be creative in the work you do.
I like that. I wrote that down. I'm going to pick that up. That sounds like a maybe not non-traditional business, but I think a lot of business application from what it sounds like from what you said. So I love that. It sounds like you're only halfway through it though. So hopefully Rick Rubin doesn't Game of Thrones it at the end and leave us wanting more. So I'll bet it's working out. You'll let us know if it doesn't. Last question before we go to our lightning round. Can you tell me some advice that you'd have given your 20-year-old self that you didn't know then, but that you know now?
Yeah, that's a great one. And I would say that my advice for my 20-year-old self is to look up and think about the world, because it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving and building on itself. And so when you're doing a project or building a new process or product or whatever the case is, if you're lucky, that's going to be a foundation that you're building for the future of what you're going to build. Or maybe it's a lesson you're going to learn that there's a new opportunity in the future that's completely other than that, and that's a lesson you take with you. But building processes and products and businesses, the landscape will keep moving, keep evolving, and we need to be thinking about, where are we going to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Where's the world going to be, and how do we meet it there? And hopefully when we're building, we can be proud of that work, but it's okay if we continue to build on it, and it's not necessarily a process set in stone for the next 5-10 years.
I love that. Okay. You ready for our lightning round? You have been
I'm
preparing
ready.
these questions. Now, our longtime listeners, the ones that have been listening since episode 1, which is pretty much my mom and aunt, know that we like to go kind of local, regional here when we're here. So, of course, we're going to ask you about Chicago in the lightning round. So let's start here. Cubs or White Sox?
Cubs.
Okay. Good answer. I agree. Giordano's or Lou Malnati's?
Oh, Illuminati is all the way.
Yes, I agree.
Oh,
Hot beef or hot dog?
ooh, I'm gonna say hot beef because I love the bear.
Great show. So intense. Love that show. Favorite restaurant?
Ooh, that's a really tough one. And I'm lucky to be in the middle of so many of them, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Giant in Logan Square. If you
Giant?
haven't been there,
Giant? I
yeah,
basically only asked this question so I can get restaurant ideas for my next trip. So
yeah,
Giant. All right,
Giant.
let's. Chicago, famously one of the most architecturally wonderful cities we have in this country. I've been on the architecture tour. Do you have a favorite building?
Ooh, that's a good one. Wow. I guess I would say, oh, I don't want to do a cop out, but I do love that architectural tour skyline. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Okay. I love
But
it.
I love the classic buildings, and it's very fun to be able to walk downtown and
What's
see
the
it.
Sears Tower called now?
It's the
We're only going to call it the Sears Tower. We only recognize the Sears Tower. You're not going to allow us to change that.
that's all I remembered. No matter how many times they change it.
I love it. All right, and then last one. And again, this is for my own personal interest. Non-touristy thing you would recommend for anybody visiting the city.
Oh, I would say if it's nice out, which I'm guessing that's when you choose to come to Chicago, take a picnic lunch, go to the beach, walk up by the water, enjoy the view. There's farmers markets. There's a lot of people out running, biking. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be.
I have to laugh every time I have somebody from Chicago tell me about the beach that's out there. Okay, so listen, Lake Michigan looks like an ocean. It's amazing. You can kind of talk yourself into it, right? But that is not sand on there. There's people lying on like hard gravel there. I live in South Florida in Miami. That's what I'm used to. So if anybody who's go from South Florida, Chicago, and think you're getting a real beach, it's nice. You're right. It's a beautiful sky. It's a beautiful skyline. It's a beautiful view. There's a lot of people working out. I love running around along the lake, but it's a little bit different beach in South Florida. You'll agree with me on that.
Absolutely is being on the beach in South Florida. So I'll say maybe that's not for you. So I'll give you a bonus for
Bonusing.
and
I
I'll
love this.
say head up to Andersonville. Beautiful bakeries, boutique shopping, maybe even stop in for a little barside magic show.
Okay, basically just said everything my wife loves. Boutique shopping, barside magic show, and bakery. I mean, you got a happy wife, happy life. You're 100% right on that. Listen, Lauren, you've been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm so glad we got to talk to people about EastLight, all the great things that your firm is doing, and learn a little bit more about you and your career. So thank you again for coming on. I can't wait maybe we'll grab a picnic next time I'm up in Chicago, okay?
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me, Oz. This has been a wonderful conversation.
All right, Lauren. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.